Well, hey Soleil, how are you?
I am fantastic, actually. Just
Well, it
loving
actually
it.
certainly looks like you're fantastic because that view, if anybody's listening to this podcast right now, I want you to hop over to my YouTube channel because the view that I'm looking at is not a backdrop on this Zoom meeting. It is actually Soleil's background, and we're going to hear all about her story on how she ended up where she is in beautiful Argentina. So let's just jump right in. You and I met. First of all, thank you for coming and being part of This Is 50 Freedom Through Passions. As I had mentioned, I love finding real life, real stories of women who have gone through an event or something that's really sort of changed their life dramatically. And you have definitely got a great story there. And my hope is that when people listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube, that they're going to get just as much inspiration from you to continue on with their path of whatever it is that they're dreaming of and what they want to do. So let's jump in. Give us a little bit of background, your story in a bit of a nutshell.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you. Thank you very much. I just love your podcasts. I've been listening to them for a while and I just feel so inspired by all the women I've seen you interview. So I feel very proud and to be here amongst them. So how did this journey begin? I didn't expect to be here. So this is a surprise. This was not a life plan of any sort. I was a teacher for a long, long time. And I was living in Vancouver Island, beautiful, beautiful place. And I was a single mom. And I was teaching at a fabulous school. And I was really unhappy. I don't even think until now, being able to look back, I could really pinpoint when I started to tank. But I was in a complete depression. If I'm honest, I don't think I was honest with myself at the time. I would have told you I was fine. I looked fine on the outside. I taught art. I had an amazing job. I lived by the ocean. My kids were great, but I just felt I don't know. Actually, the truth is I didn't feel anything. That was probably the biggest problem, is that I zoned out. I went to work. I gave my all to my students. I dealt with politics at school, which I didn't enjoy, and I came home and I would just shut down. And I'm still carrying a little bit of guilt around my kids because I don't think that they got a great mom during their teen years, because I didn't have it. I didn't have anything more to give. I just was at that point where I just couldn't give anymore. And it got to a point, and if at the time, I don't know, it just happened. I got to a point where I was on the phone with my daughter and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And I had no idea of what I could do or what I wanted to do, but I just knew I can't do this. And my poor daughter just panicked. She really, and I know from her, the depths of her heart, she was so afraid that I was going to kill myself. That's how much I was weeping, and at the depth of the emotion that came through when I said, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know, looking back, if suicide was where I was at, but I did know that I couldn't go on. And so she phoned 911, and I'm going to get a little emotional, but police showed up at my door. And if someone says that might attempt suicide, they arrest you and they put you in the back of the police car and they take you to hospital and they sit there with you until the intake doctor has interviewed you. So that was a long day. And sitting in the back of that police car, I was like, Soleil, you have to get some courage and you have to do something. You have to make a change. I don't know what it is, but this is it. So when I did finally get home, I packed up every self-help book I could get my hands on, and I went to Gabriola Island. And I came up with a little plan. The little plan was to take a 6-month sabbatical and to see if something from the universe would come along and help me out with a decision. So I planned to come here to Argentina for 3 months. And I've always had a love of horses, but I've never had the opportunity to have much interaction with them. And it's an expensive thing to do in Canada, to have a horse or to even go riding. So it was sort of in a love relationship from afar. I painted horses. So I have beautiful paintings of horses and they inspire me, but I didn't really actually have any hands-on connection with them. And then the plan was to go to Italy for 3 months after that and work with a sculptor there. And I think my secret wish was maybe I'd fall in love with an Italian, or an Italian would fall in love with me, and I'd end up in Italy. So that was that was the secret dream. I got here and I got out to Cordova, which is where I am now in the center of Argentina. I got out to a ranch, it's actually just down the road from me, a beautiful American family. And I was going to help them out for 3 weeks, I think the plan was. And literally 2 days after I got here, Argentina just shut down with COVID. And when I say shut down, you actually couldn't leave the farm to go into town without a printed permission, without passing a police block. So I actually didn't leave the ranch for 8 months. I I was out on the ranch. And, at first it really freaked me out. I tried everything I could to get home. I was on, well, no. At first I thought, oh, this is going to be a 3-week thing, to be honest. Then after I realized this is not a 3-week situation, I was on the phone to the Canadian embassy and they were like, well, if you can get to Buenos Aires, there are a couple of flights still leaving to Canada. But I couldn't. There was no way to get from here to there. And I fought it and I fought it and I fought it. And finally I was like, I can't. Okay, universe, I can't do anything about this. So I'm actually just going to let go. And the minute I just let go and started to enjoy this opportunity to actually not, in one sense, not have any worries. I had a beautiful little 1-bedroom cabin that I was in. I had to get up and feed the ducks, the chickens, the turkeys, the dogs, the cats, and the cows and the horses. And then I helped around, and I started to realize what a ball of tension I was. And it just slowly started to drop off. And then after that tension, that adrenaline of years of stress of being a single mother and trying to somehow afford to live on Vancouver Island, I got to this point where I realized I had no idea who I was. I had no idea what I wanted. I just sort of, I felt like this blank canvas, which, actually is a little bit exciting, but it's also quite terrifying. I don't know if you've ever painted a painting, but sometimes, you approach your white canvas and you just, there's a little trepidation there. But it's also so exciting. So I decided, okay, I'm just going to be here. And I don't know, but Argentina is also one of the last countries to open up again, to get out. So I was here for 8 months, and then I actually got a painting commission in Buenos Aires. So I went to Buenos Aires and I painted a series of tango dancers. And, Buenos Aires is a beautiful city and I loved it. But then I also realized, what? I like that country pace, that not having to get up and have this day that's programmed and so full. I mean, in one sense, I'd kept myself so full and busy in Canada, so I didn't have to acknowledge my emptiness. So I guess it was sort of a coping mechanism, but this slowing down gives you an opportunity to connect with yourself. And I decided I was going to come back here to the countryside and try and find out who Soleil was. Who is Soleil? I have no idea. She's not a mom anymore. Her kids have grown up. She's not a teacher anymore. And I got here and I was like, okay, well, what's one of the things that I'm interested in? So one of the things, dating in Vancouver Island is horrific, and most of my experiences were pretty bad, and I wasted a lot of energy focused on trying to find a partner. So one of the things I did when I was here is I took an online, it's a year and a half, coaching training, relationship coaching training, helping women find partners. And I finished the training. I really learned a lot about myself. And now that I've lived with it for a couple of years since finishing, I realized actually looking and searching for a relationship is just actually the worst thing you can do. You have to put all that focus and love and attention on finding and building a beautiful relationship with yourself. And so many of us spend all that time sort of looking out there and wanting someone to complete us, or a job to complete us, or something outside ourselves. And actually what I've learned is, it's all about finding yourself. So when I finished that, then I decided I was going to do an equine assisted therapy training. So that was a super cool adventure. It was in Spanish, so it was quite a jump for me, but I made a lot of great friends. My Spanish since then has improved a lot. And then I jumped into buying some horses for rescue reasons. So I now have 4 beautiful rescue horses, and I work with them every day. And they're such fabulous reflectors, because I tell you, if you go out to them and you're ungrounded and you're scattered, or you're grumpy, or you're some inner turmoil, they just they just reflect back to you. They don't want to have much to do with me when I'm in that space. But what I found is, if I come back, if I don't take it personally, and because sometimes at first it really hurt my feelings, my horses really hurt my feelings for quite a few months, until I realized, okay, so I grow up, do your work, and then go back and see how the situation is. So now, if they walk away and don't want to have anything to do with me, sometimes they're in bad mood too, or I need to come back in, find my center, clear my own energy, deal with my own stuff, be an adult, and go back. And then I'm always so surprised. They just want to have something to do with me. They're interested in me. So
that's really good. That's
yeah.
good.
Anyway,
I didn't know that about horses, actually. On our pre-call, you had told me part of the program that you're now offering in your beautiful location there, that when you had mentioned that you watch how those horses react to people, because it's a very telling story. But before we get into that, Soleil, let's back up a little bit. So, I mean, I think you said so many things that are relatable to so many women. We've spent most of our lifetime um, taking care of others, giving to others, and that feeling of didn't feel anything. That saying when you said, honestly, I actually didn't feel like I was depressed or anything, but then I actually realized I wasn't feeling anything. And I think that's a really interesting statement, because I know personally I have felt like that before, where it's like, I just want to feel something, like, and I don't know what it is, but I just need to feel something. But I never attributed it to, like, maybe I was feeling a little bit depressed or something like that. So that's really interesting that you said that. And then, the fact that your daughter called 911, and, like you said, when there's a threat to yourself, they pick you up and they take you to this psychiatric ward where you have to go through this evaluation. But it was that aha moment that you had where you said, I think you said you were sitting in the back of the police car and you realized something's got to give. I've got to just make a change. And so this whole idea of a eat, pray, love situation, where you're going to take this sort of 6 months, you're going to go to Argentina here, and then you're going to go to Italy and fall in love, eat pasta and fall in love.
yeah.
But I think you've kind of created your own little, horses, the countryside, and something else. I don't know. I think you've got a bit of a book there too, as well. So when did you, like when you said you were starting to unravel, like not unravel, but like unwind is what you said, where you felt you were this bundle of nerves, but you were forced to stay in a situation, really. And I think probably this was the universe giving you the biggest gift
Oh,
possible, where you were forced to stay in Argentina and you couldn't get back. So you're like, you just relinquished and you just kind of let go. And then the next thing you know, stuff showed up onto the path, right? And
yeah.
with, so what was that feeling of, you went from tight where you didn't think maybe you were to, okay, now I think I am loosening up. What helped you get there?
Um, Time, like just giving myself time, not filling every minute of my day with something, allowing myself to sit and do nothing, which I tell you is so difficult when you're a doer and when you place your self value on what you get done in a day. So to actually not do is so difficult for me. The other thing is to stop trying to control everything in my surroundings, in my future, in my, it's like almost taking Soleil out of the equation and letting what happens, you know. And so I mean, my mantra quite often is just let go, and asking myself, well, what's going to happen if you let go? How would it feel if you let go? And it's amazing sometimes, you know, just scanning through my body on a physical level and realizing, oh gosh, my jaw is like this, or my shoulders, and just reminding myself to let go physically. And then mentally, I've really delved into meditation, and just basically my whole meditation is trying to get my busy hamster to quiet down and let go. I just let go just into the listening. I don't know if you know, I guess I've got this, you can't hear the birds here, but just hearing the birds
No, we
and
can
the
hear them.
wind and like
Yeah.
those sort of things, which really pull you into the moment and out of the hamster.
Yeah. I mean, your environment, as I mentioned at the beginning, is very calming. Like I'm watching you, and I remember even on our pre-call, I was like, "Oh my God, is that a backdrop?" And then I saw the tree in the back blowing, and I thought, you know, imagine waking up to that every morning. And for me, I feel like sometimes when we're on this busyness path, we get into this zone of consumerism and consumption, and that's all we drive our life by. And I mean, I actually, quite frankly, love my lifestyle now, where I wake up and I put on the same jean denim cutoffs and the same white t-shirt. Maybe I might have like 4 or 5 of them, but they're all the same kind. And, you know, and I love that. And in fact, now when I go back to Canada or to the States or whatever, I kind of catch myself getting back into this consumerism and consumption. And I think, oh, this is not the life. And I get really overwhelmed, and I can feel myself getting sucked back into that vortex of, I just need to feel something. It's so wild. So when I was talking to you about it, I was like, okay, there's got to be more women that are like this, that are feeling the same way, but feel almost trapped or confined into their current situation. So so when you first went down there, how old were you?
I was 48,
48. So now you are now
almost 52.
4 years. How did your kids respond? Because I know that's a big thing for a lot of women who have been single moms. I too was a single mom for 18, 19 years. And, you know, I felt like I was kind of abandoning my son because he was only 18 at the time. And, you know, but it's like, oh, and then, you know, and like you said, you're still kind of hanging on to some guilt. But so how are you dealing with that? How are you moving past that? Or how have you moved past
Well, it is difficult, still a little bit. You know, I do feel, I wish that my kids were here. Actually, I don't want to be there. I want them to be here. But both of my children have also left Vancouver Island. My daughter moved to Los Angeles, and my son has moved to just near Dallas. So even if I was on Vancouver Island, we wouldn't be close together. So that helps a little bit. I don't feel like it's all my responsibility.
Right.
And I'm trying to learn also to have a shift in relationship where we're much more at equals now, where I want them to be where they feel the best and where they feel the happiness of their life. And for my daughter, she loves Los Angeles. She's so happy. She's blooming there. And my son is so much happier near Dallas in Texas there. And I wouldn't, as much as I would want them to be here, I would never want them to be here at cost of their happiness and that sense of where they feel best. So we're all learning. The three of us have had to sort of negotiate our relationship, and yeah, frankly, it hasn't been so easy. But they're also becoming adults, and so it's a renegotiation of relationships. I'm making quite a bit of effort to go and see them in their new places, and I'm hoping that they'll come and see me now that I'm really sort of settled down and set here. But I just want to point back to one of the things I notice when I go back to Canada is this rush, rush, rush culture. You know, you're driving, you're drinking your coffee, you've got your lunch there, and you're driving to work, and you're talking and doing a business meeting at the same time. That's my feeling of Canada. It's like that. And so I'm sure it's a little bit the same in Mexico. When you're here, it actually can be a bit of a shock. Everyone goes so slow. And it can be, I mean, at first, I mean, the lineup would just drive me nuts because they're just, they're having a conversation, but nobody is getting upset. Everyone is totally relaxed and calm. Nobody would dream of getting a takeaway coffee here. It's just not done. You sit down, you enjoy it. If you invite someone for a morning tea here at 11, in Canada, the max people that would stay would be an hour, right?
Yeah.
Here, if you don't sort of specify, they'll still be here at dinner time. It's a lot more about connection than it is about what you get done. So that's a fabulous lesson for me.
And that's really interesting because one thing I'm realizing for me is, the community, the loss of community. Like I had a really great community up in Canada, and that's something I'm missing down here. But then what I've realized is for me, it's like, well, then I got to just make that happen. And so how can I do that? And I think everything has to continue to be very intentional, even though you do say be in an ebb and flow sort of state. That is actually how I realized too a few years ago was, you know what, you just got to be in flow. And if you're in flow and you're doing your meditation and you're keeping your brain clean and not so busyness, then things show up. But also you think of different things too, and so different things, forcing yourself to do different things. Because I think sometimes when we get into this life of like, okay, we've worked and now we're going to retire, our kids are going off to university, I'm going to hit the golf course, I'm going to go for lunch with my girlfriends. That's not a lifestyle that I think a lot of women want anymore, to be completely honest. Maybe a few years ago, or like in a different cultural time, but now I think people are craving this community and doing more together and finding different activities. So how do you think your kids see you now? I mean, maybe 4 years ago when you were sort of considered stuck down there, they had some empathy for you. But then when you said, okay, well, I'm actually going to stay down here, I'm going to go back home to Canada, realized you didn't want to stay in Canada, and then you're coming back down. What do you think what do you think that's done for them, even subconsciously?
Well, actually, what they've said to me is that they're really proud of me. They're really proud of my courage. I think me doing this gave both my children courage to leave work and living situations that they were not happy with in Canada.
Yeah.
And so I actually feel that it's shown that it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter what you have to start with. Because I hardly had 2 pennies to put together when I left. I think it's shown them you can retrain, you can follow your passions, your dreams. I really do feel actually that from what they've said to me that they're more inspired by me, and they're very proud of who I am now, because I really feel like I am a new person. I am really a different person. I also realized maybe one of the things I didn't want to do was really take responsibility for my life. And now I know that my happiness and my life are my responsibility. It's nobody else's. And it's not going to come from a car or a handbag or a boyfriend. My purpose and my meaning is going to come from me. And it's like, like I think sometimes, we don't want the responsibility, but that means we can moan when we don't have it. But now that I know it's my responsibility, I can't moan when I don't have it, but it gives me this power. I have power over me. If I'm unhappy, I change that. I change that inside myself. And it's just that power, I sometimes just feel like, I don't know, like I could move mountains. I mean,
And I love that because, and that is very similar. I think that's the kind of similar messaging I was thinking too. Like I'm feeling, okay, I don't feel like I have a very good community down here. Well, the only person that's going to be able to do that, I was kind of waiting for it to show up. Maybe, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. Find that one person. I've always found that one person that's always, and then introduced me to a million other people. But I haven't found that one person yet. And so now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, like I'm still a little, I've got a couple of friends, but not near what I had before. But yeah, and that's exactly okay. Well, who's going to do that for you? You.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm glad that we've gotten inspiration from you. I know my kids are proud of me as well. I mean, at first, I'm pretty sure they were like, "What's going on here? Wait, hold on a second. I'm supposed to be leaving the house, not you." But they have come to visit me, and I prefer them when they come to visit me now versus me going back to do that. Okay, so you are now back. You're stuck in Argentina. You took a bunch of courses because you thought, well, I've got 8 months sitting here to do nothing. I might as well take some courses. So you upskilled on some coaching. You upskilled on some equestrian type counseling certifications, and then you bought a few then you left, went back to Canada, realized, my life is actually back in Argentina. You get there, you found this beautiful spot that you're in, you buy a couple of 4 rescue horses, and then you think, okay, how am I going to package up all these skills of mine into something, because eventually I got to make some money. So
yes, exactly.
Let's go from there.
I mean, that has actually been one of the most amazing things, is how do you, as women, when we get to about 50, we actually have a lot of different skills and things that give us joy. And then how do you pull it together? So what I am doing now is I'm running retreats for women. And, it's a combination. I don't want to just spend a week where we're just doing self-work. We've got to have some fun. Fun is an essential part. So we do some wine tasting because Argentina has some fabulous wines. We do some cooking. We do some horse riding. We do some work with the horses, and we do some art. After many years of working with both adults and teenagers teaching art, I realized art is another thing where just let go and stop futzing about whether it's good or not. We need to let go of that when we're trying to be creative. The worst thing you can do is want it to be good. Just have fun, really. I mean, have fun. And if we go back to that picture of the blank canvas, if I don't know what to do with a blank canvas, I put on some loud music and I just go crazy. I throw things at it. I have fun. So that's what I'm bringing to these group of women, is just have some fun. Let's just get to know. Also, I'm in a very similar situation to you. I love it here, but I do not have the group of friends that I had in Canada. And so these retreats also are about creating groups of women who maybe we don't live geographically close to each other, but that doesn't mean we can't meet once a week and talk. in a group and meet once or twice a year and have these fabulous exchanges where we really have some fun and work on ourselves. So that's the week sort of in a nutshell, the retreats I'm running here. And
Those are
then
6 days,
now
right?
I'm just in the process of running them in other places.
Right. Okay. So that, yeah. Okay. So your retreats, as you had mentioned to me, they are 1 day and or 6 days. Is that
Yeah, well, I have a 1 day program which I'm going to be doing. People can come here for 1 day, but I don't have places for people to stay. So I do 1 day here, which is just a wonderful packed day. When I go elsewhere, usually I will just do a day at someone's farm who has some horses
right?
or has a space.
Okay.
But the week long that are here are, yeah, they're in a beautiful estancia that's not very far from my house. So we have a
Right.
beautiful
Yeah.
place to
Right.
stay.
You had said that there was a
Yeah.
house that has this beautiful
Yeah.
infinity pool and stuff like that. Okay, cool. So it's 1 day or 6 day, but now you're starting to, look at branching out. Tell me more about the 6 days. So when you and I were chatting, you talked a lot about how, just finding yourself and giving you time to find yourself, and mostly through these courses. And let's talk a little bit about that because, I mean, I think people know, I know that a lot of my friends in Canada, their daughters, they put them with in sort of equestrian type camps or where they would get them a horse. And what I didn't realize was that girls taking care of horses is such a magical thing. So expand a little bit more about the itinerary and what a 6 day. What am I? I'm coming in probably like a little frazzled or whatever. And how do you take me? And what's my
Okay.
transformation at the end of 6 days?
Okay, wonderful. So you arrive, and the estancia it's really beautiful. It has a pool, it's a place to relax, just have a drink and unwind, whatever that may be for you. And one of the things working with horses, and it actually is one of those things that still frightens me, is you have this worry that I'm going to have these horses, the people are going to come and be with them, and nothing's going to happen. Right? But again, it's about letting go. And this is where, to start with the first morning, just standing in a field with some horses and grounding ourselves, a little meditation, and then just moving amongst the horses. And usually what I do is I ask someone to choose a horse and bring the horses. So the horses are there. They're not in a huge space because you need to be able to get them and bring them. And what you find so interesting is how easy for some people it is to go to the horse and put the halter on and bring it. For some other people, the horses just don't want to interact, and what that brings up, because you feel rejected, that when the horse walks away from you, there's a sense of failure, there's a sense of rejection. And that can be just that, and it's just that activity of bringing the horses to you can be fairly revealing, and that already brings up a lot of things to work with. Even just entering as with a group of people into the space of horses and seeing, are the horses interested in us? Not even trying to get them, just being there. And horses are naturally curious, but just that. And as a facilitator, that's where I get a little anxious. I feel like, gosh, I get imposter syndrome like mad. Am I just doing some hokey pokey? And yet just trusting the fact that we're just going to be here together. We're just going to see what unfolds. And I'm always surprised at how beautiful the interaction is. And when there is no interaction, when all the horses don't want to interact, what does that bring up for all of us, especially us women who are a little bit A-type personality who want to have an outcome?
Oh,
Um,
God. And that's probably where your imposter syndrome is coming into play, right? Because
yeah.
you're wanting this outcome because you're trying to create this experience for everybody, and there's this no outcome. But I love how your tone of voice and when you're saying like, okay, so what does that bring up for us? How
Yeah.
does that make you feel? Like that right there is amazing. I love that.
So that's the morning, and then there's an opportunity to go riding for those who'd like it, or an opportunity to sit by the pool and do nothing. Of course, here in Argentina, they eat a big lunch, so it's usually a beautiful, deliciously cooked lunch. A nice afternoon of riding. And then in the early, they have a sort of a tea merienda. And after that, then I just like to have the art supplies out. And I, of course, give a demonstration, but I really encourage people to just play. This is now a time where we can have a glass of wine. We can just be playing a little bit. We're not trying to do something specific. We're just, first day, I just want people to start getting comfortable. There's no therapy or counseling or anything. It's just a play day. Now, as we move through with the art, I really try and encourage people to start a little book. And it's an intuitive book that when I work, I rip words out a lot, and I work a lot with text. And I love it when people write these things without thinking, and then when you look back, it's like it's a message to yourself. So I try to work on the second day with the art as in things that we might want to just let go of. Things that that's what we're holding in our consciousness, but we're not consciously looking for words to things that's
Right.
there and what comes up. And the thing about art too, I really think if it's rubbish and we don't like it, just throw it away. It's not a big deal. It was just fun, a fun couple of hours. I mean, I make lots of rubbish art, and then I just rip it up and use it for some other art. Or if it's a rubbish painting, I use it for something underneath. So every day sort of takes on that rhythm of a little bit of work in the morning with the horses, some good lunch, a ride, pool time. Then it would be one evening of wine tasting, one evening of a cooking class. And I also really, really encouraging women to strongly share their stories, and that being authentic and vulnerable, because I felt a little bit in Canada always there's a little edge of competition. And why do we do that? I don't need to be in competition with anyone. And the more you do well, the more I'll do well. So I'm really encouraging women to drop that and actually connect authentically with people. And we don't need to, I don't know if you found this, when you have little children, oh, my child crawled first. Who cares? Like,
I know. That is so true. And like even your earlier comment about, rushing around buying like we were trying to find our happiness through handbags and like, I think about the times that I used to reward myself with those materialistic things. And now instead I reward myself with travel. And it's like, wow, what a difference. What a difference. But yeah, I think, vulnerability and bringing our guard down, it's very hard. We haven't done that a lot. We weren't really taught. My mother, I mean, our age group, our mothers, like they never even went to therapy,
No.
and I mean, I'm so proud of my kids because I know that they are seeking their whatever help, whatever guidance and advice through, but I mean, it's a different time, it's a different time. Okay, so day 3, we're kind of getting to know each other. We've had some wine sessions, and now you're really starting to like, do you create a social circle like where they're sharing stories or?
Yes, yeah. So we have time. We have times in the evenings, and but just before lunch, after we've worked with the horses, there's a good time to share there. And the other thing that I'm really working with is by the end of the time to realize that we have a choice of who we are, what kind of woman you want to be, and not to just live your life willy-nilly, but to choose and say, okay, I can picture, because this is the journey I've been on. The Soleil that was and the Soleil that is now are very different, but I had a part in that. It didn't just happen to me. have been visualizing, this is the Soleil I want to be. I want to be a woman who stands with confidence and with warmth. I want to be a woman that other people feel safe and inspired in my presence. And that is something we have a choice over. And it's so exciting. If you think
So
about,
rather than saying, what do I want?
yeah,
It's who do I want to be, and
absolutely.
to myself and to the people around me. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
by the end of the week, what I really, women are leaving the week with some art, hopefully, or if they hated it, they threw it all away. That's fine too. Some art that reminds them of who they want to be and a really clear picture. And then the wonderful thing on the last day is to sort of bring this picture within yourself. Imagine how this woman who you want to be, how she walks, how she carries herself. We're going to go out to the horses and we're going to see if they believe us, because that is an amazing
Ah,
thing. Because, if we don't believe it in ourselves, it's wonderful to see that the horses don't believe us either. So I have
really?
an exercise, for instance, well, when I wanted to do this, for my first retreat, I brought it to the horses and I sort of set up a goal across the field. That's my retreat. I can see me at my retreat. And I had my horse on a rope and I was like, I'm just going to go to my retreat, my first retreat. And I was pulling, and my horse, who's usually very willing to do what I want, was just feet out. I'm not going with you. And then I had to sort of pause. I really started to feel it. What does it feel like there? What does it feel? How do I feel accomplishing that? What am I wearing? What are the smells? And when I really started to believe that woman, Soleil, the horse just came with me, happy. There was not even remote pulling, just walked with me. And so
Okay.
it's just a magic moment. That for me was so telling. And I want women to have that opportunity to envision who they want to be, try it out with a fabulously unbiased mirror, because a horse is
Yeah.
completely non-biased, and then have an opportunity to readdress it if it doesn't work and try again. And it's magic, really. Well, it isn't magic, it's just
I can see that being magic because I mean, often we hear about being present, and just just be and be still, and but to be able to intentionally put the intention behind it. Okay, this is who I want to be, and then now, how does it feel when I'm being that person? And that's your point there about bringing the horse, and the horse will be the true test. I love that. I love that. So they what's next for you? I know that you're planning on a retreat in November, 6 day one
yes.
down there. I think I've already put my name on the list. I did that this morning. So what's next for you over the next few months?
The next few months, well, I'm working on I'm actually working on a little art show. So I sort of go between doing my own art. Well, I have two projects. I have a beautiful gray gelding who I am working on training. I've never trained a horse, and I want to be able to ride him by the end of this next few months. It's a long way because he's obviously come from a bit of trauma background, so he's been very nervous and very wary of people. So that's one project. And then this art project, I'm working on a project with words, kind of, in that Georgia O'Keeffe style of sort of vulva, but not obviously, just intuitive shapes and letters and words. And I'm actually popping back to Canada on the 4th of March for 3 weeks to solidify just a short course in Nelson. And I've been working on a deck of oracle cards, horse-inspired little meditations. So just getting those finished, getting them out. So lots of
Okay, you
projects
got
that
lots
I'm,
going on. Look at you
yes,
go.
Consistency, and as you say, really making a concerted effort to start having that group of women friends here.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
intentional part of it for sure. The community. I know.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you?
Right now, my website it crashed for some reason very shortly ago, so I'm having it reconstructed. It will hopefully be up. That's soleilmannion.com. That should be in the next week or so. Will be up. And then my Instagram is Soleil_Mannion_. So those are probably the best two spots
Okay.
to.
I'll put those links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Listen, you have been amazing. You've got an amazing story of overcoming so much. I think that you're an inspiration to a lot of women. So congratulations, and
Oh,
just
thank you.
keep on going. I can't wait to see you in November.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing you too. All right. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
My pleasure. Anytime.